At the corner of the quiet street stood the same old oak tree, the one whose roots had once hidden so many childhood games. Running feet, soft laughter, whispered secrets, all had melted into the soil beneath it. When Sarah returned to this street after so many years, her steps stopped on their own. She closed her eyes for a moment, and the world of her childhood came alive before her. "Hide! Quick, hide!" Samuel's playful voice echoed in her ears, and suddenly she could see them both again, giggling behind the thick trunk of the tree. But those were just memories now. Time had changed everything. Today, under the same oak tree, silence and sadness hung heavy in the air. Sarah's heart felt strangely heavy too. She wondered, would she even recognize Samuel now? The same boy who had once been her neighbor, her secret keeper, her closest friend. When she reached Aunt Grace's house, Sarah sank onto the old sofa, exhausted. Aunt Grace smiled warmly, kissed her forehead, and said, "Sweetheart, seeing you here brings peace to my heart. It's been so many years since you last came to the street." "Aunt Grace, my heart never wanted to," Sarah whispered. "Old wounds would start to ache again. But this time, I felt I needed to come back." Aunt Grace sighed softly as she handed her a cup of tea. "You did the right thing, dear. But this place isn't the same anymore. The laughter is gone. Everything's quieter now. And people, they've changed too." Sarah looked up. "Has Samuel changed too, Aunt Grace?" At that question, a shadow passed across Aunt Grace's face. "He has, my dear. Life's been hard on him. He's aged before his time. That bright smile of his, it's gone. Let me warn you, you might not even recognize him." Sarah's heart began to race. She remembered the same Samuel, the boy who used to run with her through the alleys, who carried her school bag, who laughed every time she pouted over her broken dolls. Could all of that really be over? A soft knock came at the door. Sarah's heartbeat grew louder in her ears as she stood up. Moments later, a tall figure stepped into the room. A serious face, worn with fatigue, eyes filled with quiet distance. For a second, Sarah just stared. Her heart whispered, "It's him. It's Samuel." Her lips trembled, tears filling her eyes. "Hi," he greeted softly, his voice low and calm. Then he sat down quietly on the chair across from her. Sarah tried to answer, but her voice caught in her throat. The air in the room felt heavy, filled with a silence that once would have been broken by laughter. Samuel, who used to fill every moment with warmth, now sat across from her like a stranger. Aunt Grace broke the silence softly. "Son, look, who's here?" Samuel looked up at Sarah for a brief second, then looked away. "Yes, I recognize you." Those words pierced her heart. Just recognize me? Years of friendship, endless memories, laughter, and secrets, all reduced to simple recognition? "How have you been?" Samuel asked in a quiet, distant tone. "I'm fine," Sarah replied softly. For a few moments, neither spoke. The ticking of the clock filled the silence. Then, Samuel said, "This town has changed. The people too. Some memories, I can't recall them anymore." Sarah felt something break inside her. Had those memories really meant nothing to him? Trying to ease the tension, Aunt Grace asked gently, "So, son, what are you doing these days?" Samuel lowered his eyes. "I'm just carrying the weight of life," he said quietly. "Doing small jobs, keeping the house running." Fatigue and bitterness hid behind his calm voice. "Samuel," Sarah whispered, "why didn't you ever reach out? Not even once. All these years?" He remained silent for a moment, then spoke slowly, each word heavy with pain. "Time answers some questions, Sarah, but the answers it gives are often cruel." With that, he stood up and walked toward the door. Sarah watched him leave, the weight of his steps echoing like old memories. It was as if his entire being carried the burden of their past. When the door closed behind him, Tears filled her eyes. One question kept echoing in her heart over and over. What had happened that changed Samuel so much? Night fell over the quiet neighborhood. The houses stood in darkness, broken only by the distant sound of barking dogs. Sarah sat awake in her room, staring at the ceiling. Sleep was nowhere near. The strangeness in Samuel's eyes, his words, they kept repeating in her mind. Time answers some questions, and the answers given by time are often harsh. That line held something deeper, a secret hidden beneath its sorrow. A quiet ache spread through Sarah's heart as she whispered to herself, what pain was he hiding? Sarah couldn't sleep. Her mind kept circling around the same thought. Had Samuel begun to doubt her? Or had the harshness of life changed him completely? Just then, a soft knock came at the door. Aunt Grace stepped inside. Haven't you slept yet, sweetheart? Sarah smiled faintly. I'm trying, Aunt Grace, but sleep just won't come. The moisture in her eyes gave her away. Aunt Grace sat down beside her. I know, she said gently. Samuel's coldness hurt you. But dear, he's been through more than you can imagine. After his father passed, the whole weight of the family fell on him. He couldn't finish school, couldn't build a future. The boy who once dreamed big, now just fights to survive each day. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. But Aunt Grace, all these years he never sent a single letter? Not even a message? Aunt Grace sighed deeply. Maybe he didn't have the strength. Or maybe life hardened him so much, he forgot how to look back. A heavy sadness settled over Sarah's heart. She wondered quietly, if love is true, can time and pain really erase it? Sarah worried. The next morning, the street was alive long before sunrise. Children rushed off to school, workers hurried toward their jobs. Sarah stood by the window watching the movement of life until her eyes found Samuel. He was loading boxes onto an old motorcycle. His clothes were dusty, his hands rough with labor. Her heart whispered, this is the same boy who once shared my childhood dreams. And yet, how much life had changed him. She stepped toward the door, but stopped midway. Samuel looked up for a moment, their eyes almost met. Then he quickly turned away. The pain of that moment cut deeper than words. That afternoon, an elderly woman from the neighborhood came to visit Aunt Grace. It was then that Sarah finally learned more about Samuel's life. That boy, the woman said softly, he's stubborn but kind. He's the only support his mother and sister have. Still, he doesn't mix with anyone. Keeps his pain locked inside. Sarah hesitated before asking, did he ever get married? The woman shook her head. No, dear. He's never accepted anyone's proposal. Some say there's an old love, one that never died in his heart. Sarah's heartbeat quickened. Was that love hers? Or was there another story hidden behind Samuel's silence? The moonlight spread gently across the quiet town that night. Gathering all her courage, Sarah decided it was time to face Samuel. She walked toward the old church courtyard, the place where as children they once played every evening. The church still stood there, but it was empty now, forgotten by time. Samuel was sitting on one of the old stone benches, an open book resting in his hands. Samuel? Sarah called softly. He startled and looked up. For a moment, neither of them spoke. What are you doing here? His tone was surprised, distant, almost cold. I came for an answer, Sarah said quietly. Why do you treat me like a stranger? Sorrow clouded Samuel's eyes. It's not by choice, he whispered. It's a necessity. Otherwise, my heart is still the same one that beat with yours when we were children. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. Then why this distance? Samuel closed the book slowly and said, there are turns in this story I don't want you to carry. My life, my circumstances, they'd only bring you pain. Sarah pressed a hand to her chest. Is love afraid of pain? He said nothing. His lips trembled, but no words came out. That silence weighed heavier than any storm. The old walls around them seemed to echo with everything left unspoken. At last, Sarah turned to leave. But as she walked away, she made herself a promise. She would uncover the truth. Whatever wound Samuel carried, she would find it. Light rain began to fall, soaking the dusty streets. The chill in the air was sharp, but Sarah's restlessness was sharper. Samuel's words replayed in her mind. My heart is still the same, but reality is bitter. That single line had stolen her sleep for nights. She decided she would not stay silent anymore. If love was still alive, it deserved to find its ending, no matter how painful the path might be. The next day, Sarah went with Aunt Grace to the market. By chance, she saw Samuel again, standing by an old bookstall, holding a worn history book. His clothes were dusty, his eyes tired, his face shadowed with quiet worry. Sarah's heart pulled toward him, but her feet froze where she stood. Pause. Aunt Grace leaned closer and whispered, Sweetheart, that boy works hard all day and still buys books in the evening. People call him foolish, but I know better. He carries the sorrow of an unfinished education in his heart. Moisture gathered in Sarah's eyes. She couldn't stop thinking this was the same Samuel who once dreamed of becoming an engineer. Now, life's cruelty had turned that dreamer into a laborer. That evening, Sarah made a bold decision. She went straight to Samuel's house. The door opened to reveal his younger sister, Sophie, a frail girl, her face carrying both innocence and quiet struggle. You're Sarah, right? Sophie said softly. My brother told me about you, but he won't be happy to see you here. Sarah's heart sank. Why? Am I a stranger to him now? Sophie lowered her eyes. His heart's been deeply hurt. But your name still slips from his lips sometimes. A gentle light flickered in Sarah's heart. Without another word, she stepped inside. Samuel was sitting at an old wooden desk, bent over writing something. When he looked up and saw her, he froze, shock and anger flashing in his eyes. What is this, Sarah? His voice trembled. Why are you here? This isn't a move, Samuel, she said, her voice breaking. It's my right. Will you always treat me like a stranger? Once, I was your closest friend, your confidant, the one who shared your dreams, your laughter, even your tears. Nothing was foreign between us, Samuel. But now you've built this wall, as if everything we were never existed. Her voice quivered with pain. Deep lines appeared on Samuel's face as he sat down slowly, leaning against the wall. My right, he said quietly. Life took that away from me, Sarah. When my father died, my mother fell sick. The weight of my sisters' lives fell on my shoulders. I buried my dreams that day. How could I drag you into my struggles? I couldn't. I hid your dreams behind my tears and kept your love locked inside my heart. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. So love only belongs to happiness? She asked softly. Isn't love also about sharing pain? Samuel bowed his head. I never wanted to give you my sorrow, Sarah. I wanted you to stay happy. She took a trembling breath. But my happiness is tied to you, Samuel. If you're carrying a burden, then let me carry half. I want to share your pain too, not just your joy. Her voice cracked with emotion. The room fell silent. Outside, the sound of gentle rain touched the windows. Tears shimmered in Samuel's eyes, though his lips remained still. Then slowly, Sarah placed her hand over his. If you truly see me as a stranger, she whispered, then why do our hearts still beat to the same old tune? Samuel slowly lifted his eyes. Sarah, there are still questions left unanswered, he said quietly. There's a secret hidden in my past. And if you discover it, it will hurt you more than you can imagine. That's why I want you to stay away from this fire." "Secret?" Sarah whispered. "What kind of secret, Samuel?" He didn't answer. His eyes wandered toward the window, lost in the distance, as if his words were trapped behind pain. Sarah could feel it. This secret was the wall standing between their hearts. And in that moment she made a silent promise. No matter how painful or uncertain the path ahead was, she would uncover it. Because without knowing the truth, her journey of love would remain incomplete. Night fell heavy and silent. Dark clouds drifted through the sky, and every now and then a flash of lightning tore the darkness apart, just for a moment. There was a similar storm inside Sarah's heart. Samuel's words echoed again and again in her mind. She turned on her bed, restless. Sleep refused to come. Finally, she sat up, determined. If love was to survive, this secret had to be found. The next morning, she was unusually quiet. Aunt Grace noticed it right away. "What's wrong, my dear? Did you see something troubling in your dreams?" Sarah forced a small smile. "No, Aunt, nothing at all." But deep inside, she knew exactly what she had to do. Outside, the village was alive, the air cool and damp, fields being plowed, farmers calling to their oxen. Life moved forward as always. But Sarah's thoughts were trapped in one place, Samuel and his hidden truth. That evening, she found herself standing once again at his door. This time, Samuel opened it himself. Surprise flickered across his face, mixed with irritation. "You've come again?" he said, his voice heavy. "Yes," she replied firmly, "and I'll keep coming until you tell me that secret." Samuel's lips tightened. He looked up at the sky for a long moment before speaking. "Don't you understand, Sarah?" he said slowly. "Some truths are better left unknown. When the serpent of truth awakens, it doesn't kill right away. It poisons the soul. Bit by bit, it takes away life while keeping you alive." Sarah's eyes didn't waver. Her voice was steady, but her heart was trembling. "But love can't live in the dark, Samuel," she said softly. "If we're meant for each other, then your secret belongs to me, too." The silence that followed was heavier than words. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, as if the sky itself was listening. A heavy silence filled the room. Samuel took a deep breath and closed his eyes for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice low and tense. "Okay, but listen carefully, Sarah. This story, it will tear your heart apart." Sarah met his gaze. "My heart is already heavy," she said softly. "Tell me the truth. Maybe the burden will feel lighter." Samuel pulled up a chair and sat down, but his eyes remained fixed on the window, as if the past itself was forming in the darkness outside. "It was 5 years ago," he began slowly. "My father, he was still alive, but illness had broken him. I wanted to go to the city to study, but circumstances didn't allow it. So, I started working as a laborer. Back then, I made a mistake that still weighs on my heart." Sarah's pulse quickened. "What kind of mistake?" "I had a friend, Jason," he said quietly. "We saved some money together, planning to start a small business in the city. But he cheated me, took everything and ran. When my father learned about it, he fell ill from shock. I lied to him, said I had wasted the money myself. I couldn't tell him the truth. He left this world carrying that sorrow." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "But Samuel, it wasn't your fault. It was Jason who cheated." He shook his head slowly. "No, Sarah, the fault is mine. I couldn't tell my father the truth. He could have borne the shock, but the lie from his son broke his heart. I've carried that guilt ever since. That's why I've punished myself. I thought I didn't deserve happiness." Sarah's tears fell freely. She whispered, voice shaking, "Samuel, love can lighten this burden. You've trapped yourself. Did your father want your life to be destroyed like this?" Samuel exhaled, heavy with despair. "I've asked myself that 1,000 times, but I've never found an answer." Sarah stepped closer, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. "I'll answer for him, Samuel. He wanted you to live, to chase your dreams, to open your heart, to embrace love." Samuel's lips trembled, but no words came out. Tears shimmered in his eyes. Suddenly, the door slammed loudly. Sarah jumped. Samuel stood abruptly and stepped toward the door. A stranger was there, tall, thin, his face hard, cold. The color drained from Samuel's face. The shadow he had carried in his memory now stood alive before him. "Jason," Samuel whispered helplessly. A strange mix of pride and regret shone in Jason's eyes. "Yes," he said openly, "it's me. I've returned after all these years, and I know you don't think well of me." Sarah looked between them, her mind racing. This was the man who had shattered Samuel, the betrayal that had haunted him for years. "How dare you come back?" Samuel stepped forward, his voice sharp, his hands clenched. "Do you even realize what your betrayal took from me?" Jason lowered his gaze. "I admit it. I was blind with greed. I chased wealth and trampled on friendship, trust, everything. But I've returned to make amends." He pulled an envelope from his pocket, thick bundles of money inside. "Here. This is the same capital I took. I've worked for years to repay it, to atone for my mistake." Samuel's chest heaved with anger. He threw the envelope to the ground. "Will this bring my father back? Restore my trust? My peace?" Jason's head hung low. "No. I know nothing can bring it back. But at least, maybe you can find some peace knowing I admitted my fault." Sarah stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "Samuel, sometimes forgiving others makes the heart lighter. Your father is gone, but you're still alive. How long will you punish yourself?" Samuel said nothing. A storm raged in his eyes, years of anger and grief battling with the truth that Jason had changed. "If you want, I'll leave this town forever," Jason said quietly. "But before I go, I need you to forgive me." Those words struck Samuel's heart. He was silent, then stepped back, sitting against the wall. "Go," he said finally. "I forgive you, but I haven't forgiven myself yet." Tears glistened in Jason's eyes. He bent to touch Samuel's feet, a sign of respect. But Samuel stopped him. "Go. Live a straight life. I have chosen strange paths, ones you may never return from." Jason looked at Sarah, as if she were Samuel's last hope. "Take care of him," he whispered. "He's very broken." Then he left, leaving silence behind. The sound of soft rain tapped against the windows. Sarah stepped closer to Samuel. Her voice trembled with love and hope. "You have forgiven him. Now forgive yourself too, Samuel." "I still feel guilty inside," Samuel whispered, his voice heavy with sorrow. "I can never forget the last expression in my father's eyes. It feels as if he left this world angry with me." Sarah held his hands firmly, her eyes warm and steady. "Samuel, the first rule of love is to heal each other's wounds," she said. "If you keep your heart locked away, our love will remain trapped too. I have to set you free." Samuel looked into her eyes, For a moment, he saw the same light there that had given him courage to live all those years. It felt as if the weight on his heart had finally lifted. Then, there was a knock at the door. A man from the village stepped inside, holding a letter. "Samuel, son, this letter has come from the city for you." Samuel's hands trembled as he took the envelope. The color drained from his face as he read the handwriting. Sarah's heart raced. "What happened, Samuel? Whose letter is this?" she asked, fear in her voice. His voice shook as he answered, This is from my father's old friend. Before my father died, he wanted to tell me something. He left a trust, and now it's being handed over to me." Sarah's eyes widened. "What trust?" Samuel's gaze sparkled with shock and fear. "Maybe this is the truth my father wanted me to know. A truth he kept from me all these years." The letter felt like a storm in his hands. He read it again and again, then closed his eyes, unable to believe what he had just learned. Sarah watched, horrified, as the weight of the secret sank into him. "What does it say? Why aren't you speaking?" she asked softly. Samuel's lips barely moved. "My father told his friend a truth as he was dying. The truth is that I was not his biological son." A muffled gasp escaped Sarah's lips. What are you saying, Samuel?" He continued, voice trembling. "The letter says my father adopted me from an orphanage. They hid it to protect me, to let me live without knowing. They wanted me to learn the truth when the time was right, but couldn't tell me themselves. Now this letter is revealing everything." Silence filled the room. Outside, dark clouds rolled across the sky. Thunder rumbled faintly, as if nature itself shivered under the weight of the revelation. Sarah's voice trembled as she spoke. "Samuel, whether or not you share blood, a father is someone who raises and cares for you. Your father loved you, and that is the real truth." Samuel bowed his head, weighed down by sorrow. "But Sarah, sometimes I wonder if my life has only been a journey of strange paths. First, Jason's betrayal, then my father's death, and now this secret. I feel my life is surrounded by questions." Sarah stepped closer and held his hand gently. "Life is not made of questions, Samuel. It is made of answers. And I am the answer to every question you have. This is love. And love will give meaning to all these strange paths." Tears shimmered in Samuel's eyes. "But Sarah, what if everyone finds out this secret? What will people say? Can we live with their whispers? Their insults?" Sarah's voice grew firm, full of conviction. "Love doesn't need approval. People will always have something to say, but we will live with our truth." At that moment, Sophie entered the room, her eyes wide with surprise and fear. "Brother, what is all this? Aren't we really siblings?" Samuel's heart tightened. How could he answer her? But Sarah stepped forward and hugged Sophie tightly. "Family isn't just blood, it's the heart. You and Samuel will always be siblings. The secret doesn't change the love between you." Tears ran down Sophie's cheeks, but Sarah's words seemed to comfort her. The three of them sat in silence through the night. On one side were the wounds of Jason's betrayal. On the other, the storm of Samuel's father's secret. But with the first light of morning, courage awoke anew. Samuel spoke softly, his voice full of determination. "Sarah, maybe all of this was a test, but now I don't want to run anymore. I want to walk with you on these strange paths." Sarah's eyes sparkled with joy. This is what I wanted, Samuel. Together, we will give our identity to these paths." Just then, some village elders arrived at Samuel's house. Jason was with them. All eyes turned to Samuel. The news of the letter's secret had spread. One elder stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Samuel, we know this secret must be a shock to you. But remember, family is not only recognized by blood, but by character. You are the son of this village, and this village is your family." The weight of the past finally began to lift. And in that moment, Samuel, Sarah, and Sophie felt the first light of hope, shining through the storm. Then, finally, Jason stepped forward. "Samuel, I betrayed you, but today, I am ashamed. You are a true human being. Forgive me, and start your life anew." Samuel took a deep breath, the weight of years lifting slightly from his shoulders. "Maybe, now is the time for me to forgive myself, too." Sarah closed her eyes, a smile spreading across her face. A prayer rose from her heart. "Oh God, let these strange paths find a new destination." A strange silence had settled over the village, as if every tree, every wall had listened to the burden of Samuel's past. Yet, inside him, a new determination had awakened. That night, Samuel sat on the roof, staring at the stars twinkling in the sky. Sarah approached him slowly. "You haven't slept yet?" she asked softly. Samuel smiled. "How could I, Sarah? The destination of these strange paths is finally in front of us." "What have you decided?" she asked, eyes shining. "I've decided I will no longer let the secrets or whispers of others define me," Samuel said firmly. "I will carve my own identity. The villagers support me, but I will also honor my father's name and make it shine brighter." "And I am with you, Samuel," Sarah said, placing her hand on his, "at every step, in every decision." Just then there was a knock at the door. Jason stood there, lines of regret etched into his face. "Samuel," he said slowly, "I know nothing can undo what I did, but there is something you must know." Samuel's brow furrowed. "What is it now?" Jason's voice trembled. "You were adopted from an orphanage, yes, but your father, he was actually a close friend of my father. He brought you into his home on your mother's last wish. He never wanted you to feel like an orphan. He hid this secret to protect your honor, your dignity." Samuel's chest loosened, the weight on his heart finally lifting. "So, my father hid all of this out of love, not shame." "Yes, Samuel," Jason said, bowing his head, "and I am ashamed that I ever tried to defame you." For the first time in years, Samuel felt a deep calm. The storm of betrayal, loss, and secrets had finally cleared. Samuel took a deep breath. He stepped forward and placed his hand gently on Jason's shoulder. "A person's true identity is determined by character, not by family background," he said softly. "I forgive you. But now, it's time for you to improve your life as well." Jason's eyes welled with tears. "I wish I had understood this earlier," he whispered, turning away as if searching for a new beginning. A few days later, the entire village gathered in the square. The elders announced that Samuel had been chosen as the head of the village committee for his honesty, courage, and character. Samuel was stunned. I am not worthy of this," he said, his voice trembling. And elders smiled kindly. "To be worthy, it is not blood that matters, but the weight of your character. And you have proven that weight." Sarah hid tears of pride behind her hands. At that moment, she felt every sacrifice, every struggle had been worth it. That evening, after everyone had left, she held Samuel's hand. "See, Samuel, even strange paths can lead to a destination, if you have courage." Samuel looked up at the sky, as if speaking to his father's spirit. "Dad, your son has finally found his identity." A cool breeze swept through the village. It felt as if the universe itself had given its blessing. Late at night, when only the ticking of the clock broke the silence, Samuel sat on his bed gazing out the window. A deep stillness flowed through the village. and through his heart. "Have you slept yet?" Sarah asked softly, sitting beside him. Samuel smiled. "I'm sleepy, but my heart doesn't want to. I feel like I shouldn't waste this moment, this silence, this peace, this feeling of finally finding myself." "These moments are the real treasure, Samuel," Sarah said. "The one who takes them in never remains empty-handed." She came closer, and for a long while they sat in silence. It was not heavy. It was a silence in which their souls spoke without words. The next morning, the first rays of sun bathed the village in golden light. Samuel stood in the courtyard, breathing in the fresh air. The breeze refreshed him, as if every hardship and every strange path had led him to this moment of clarity, strength, and peace. Life in the streets had resumed its course. Some faces were tired, some hopeful. Samuel felt as if everyone was walking their own strange paths. Then Sarah stood beside him, smiling. "How strong these moments seem. I wish humans could be that strong." Samuel looked at her with conviction. A human can grow stronger than a mountain if he conquers the fear within himself. There was a certainty in his voice, born from nights spent awake, reflecting, struggling, and learning. Days passed. The townspeople no longer saw Samuel as just a traveler. He had become a part of their community. One elder said to him gently, "Son, whether paths are strange or familiar, the true traveler is the one who walks from the heart. The rest, they get lost." These words sank deep into Samuel's heart. He realized that every person here was living the same philosophy, in their own way, just as his father had written in that letter. At night, under the moonlight, Sarah sighed softly. "Have you ever thought where this journey will take us?" "No," Samuel admitted, looking into her eyes. "But I know this. The real journey begins here. Because you are with me. You brought me out of the darkness of despair and to the threshold of light. You are the kind of light that lets a person meet himself, that helps him recognize himself." He opened his diary, the first gift Sarah had given him, and picked up a pen. For the first time, he wrote with an open heart. "I learned that strange paths are not darkness. They are the lamps that lead us to our true selves. Only those with courage reach the destination." Sarah read his words and smiled. "This isn't just your story, Samuel. It's the story of every person afraid to walk on strange paths." "Then we will share this story with others," Samuel said, holding the pen firmly. "So they will know strange paths can also show the way." The sky above their home was clear. The stars twinkled with quiet brilliance, and a strange, serene faith filled the air, as if the universe itself had come to believe once again in Samuel and Sarah's determination. And in that silent, starlit moment, the story of love, courage, and self-discovery found its true ending. Pause.